The road to Laketop. The amulet's whispers filled Shamaz's chamber like the rustling of dead leaves, growing louder as dawn approached. King Edrick stood by the window, watching the first pale light touch the eastern towers of Castle Stormmore. He hadn't slept. Behind him, Shamaz pored over ancient texts by candlelight, his weathered fingers tracing symbols that matched those etched into the amulet's surface. "Here," Shamaz said, his voice hoarse from hours of reading. The Chronicle of the Sealed Darkness mentions a seer, one who survived the final battle 3,000 years ago. Edric turned from the window. Survived? That's impossible. Not the same person, obviously. Shamaz tapped the yellowed page. A lineage. The text speaks of the eyes of Laketop, seers who passed their gift down through generations, guardians of memory who could read the old magic. If anyone can tell us what this amulet truly is and how to stop what's coming, it would be them. Laketop. Edric crossed to the table, studying the map Shamaz had spread beside the ancient tome. North of the Forsaken Lake. That's 3 days hard riding through Silverthorn Forest. The forest is dangerous now, Shamaz warned. The corruption spreads. We've had reports of twisted creatures near the old paths. Then I'll need fighters with me. Edric's jaw set with determination. Rose and Alluria, if there's danger on the road, I want them at my side. Shamaz nodded slowly. And I will remain here to continue researching. The archives may hold more answers, and someone must coordinate with the other lords. We need them to believe the threat is real. Send word to the northern garrisons as well, Edric said. If the seals are failing, we need to know where and how quickly. I want scouts checking every ancient site within our borders. The amulet pulsed brighter, as if responding to their plans. Its whispers shifted, and for a moment Edric could have sworn he heard a single word clearly. Lady Rose Kirk was already in the training yard when the summons came, her sword dancing through the morning mist as she ran through her combat forms. The blade sang as it cut the air, her movements precise and deadly. Sweat dampened her curly red hair despite the cool dawn, and her armor, practical steel plate over chainmail, caught the rising sun. A page approached nervously. "My lady, the king requests your presence in the war room immediately." Rose completed her form before acknowledging him, driving her blade into the practice dummy's chest with enough force to split the straw-stuffed torso. "Tell His Majesty I'll be there shortly." She found Alluria already waiting outside the war room, leaning against the stone wall with characteristic nonchalance. The rogue wore her black leather armor like a second skin, twin daggers strapped to her thighs. Even in the castle's interior, she seemed to blend with the shadows. "You heard?" Rose asked. "I hear everything." Alluria's dark eyes glinted with amusement. Her long braided hair was pulled back in an intricate pattern that kept it clear of her face. Something about children finding a magical amulet in a bog, ancient evil waking up. "The usual," Rose snorted. "Nothing is ever usual with Edric. That's why we follow him." Alluria pushed off the wall and opened the war room door. Because usual is boring, and boring gets you killed in different ways. Inside, King Edrick stood over a map of Stormmore with Shamaz beside him. The old healer looked exhausted, but his eyes were sharp as he studied the two women entering. Rose, Alluria. Edric's voice carried the weight of command, but also warmth. These weren't just soldiers, they were friends who had fought beside him for years. "We have a situation," he explained quickly. "The children's discovery, the amulet's properties, Shamaz's research into the ancient seals." As he spoke, Rose's expression grew darker, while Alluria's remained unreadable. "So the old stories are true," Rose said when he finished. "The darkness returns." "Every 3,000 years, according to the texts," Shamaz confirmed, "and we're living in the year it wakes." Alluria moved to the map, her finger tracing the route north. Laketop, through Silverthorn Forest. That's bandit country even on good days, and if there's corruption spreading. She looked up at Edric. "You're not planning to take an army?" "Can't," Edric said. "We need speed, and we need to avoid attention. If there are cultists or agents of this ancient evil, a royal procession would be a target. Small group, fast horses, travel light." "The three of us," Rose said, understanding immediately. "The three of us," Edric confirmed. "Plus Shamaz." "No." The healer raised a hand. "I'm needed here. The archives hold more secrets, and someone must coordinate the kingdom's defenses. You three have fought together long enough to know each other's movements. You don't need an old man slowing you down." "You're not old," Rose protested. "I'm 64, child, and my knees remind me of it every morning." Shamaz smiled gently. "Besides, you'll have this." He produced a small leather pouch. "Healing herbs and poultices. Basic supplies. If you encounter corruption, wrap wounds immediately and burn any infected flesh before it spreads." Alluria took the pouch, weighing it in her hand. Cheerful. Realistic. Shamaz turned to Edrick. "The seer in Laketop is known as Grandmother Yaga. At least, that's the name mentioned in the old texts. Whether she's truly that old or it's a title passed down, I don't know. But the texts say she can read the old magic, interpret prophecies, and see threads of fate that others miss." "Any idea where to find her?" Rose asked. "Laketop is a small town. Ask at the tavern or the temple. Someone will know." Shamaz carefully wrapped the amulet in cloth and placed it in a wooden box lined with lead. "Keep this contained. The less it pulses openly, the less attention you'll draw from things that might sense its power." Edrick took the box, feeling the weight of more than just metal and stone. "How long do we have? Before the seals fail completely?" "Weeks, perhaps. Maybe less." Shamaz met his eyes. "The corruption is spreading faster than it should. Either the seals are weaker than we thought, or someone is actively working to break them." "Then we leave within the hour," Edrick decided. "Rose, Alluria, gather your gear. Travel rations for 5 days. Weapons for close combat and range. Expect trouble." "Always do," Alluria said with a slight smile. As they turned to leave, Shamaz called out, "Edrick, one more thing. The Chronicle mentions a warning about the journey to Laketop. It says the forest remembers and the lake hungers." "I don't know what that means, but we'll be careful," Edrick promised. "Keep the castle ready. If we're not back in 7 days, assume the worst and activate the full garrison." "May the old gods watch over you," Shamaz said quietly. "All of you." The stable yard bustled with activity as the 3 companions prepared for departure. Edrick chose Thunder, his warhorse, a massive gray destrier with a temperament to match his name. Rose selected a chestnut courser known for endurance, while Alluria took a black mare bred for speed and silence. Stable hands loaded saddlebags with supplies: dried meat, hard cheese, journey bread, water skins, rope, and flint. Edrick packed his sword and a short bow. Rose carried her longsword and a war axe strapped to her saddle. Alluria's twin daggers hung at her thighs, their blades glowing with a faint purple luminescence, enchanted weapons she'd claimed from a dead assassin years ago. "Those things still creep me out," Rose muttered, eyeing the glowing daggers. "They've saved your life twice," Alluria countered. "Doesn't make them less creepy." Edrick smiled despite the tension. This was familiar. The banter before a mission, the way they fell into old patterns. They'd ridden together through a dozen campaigns, fought bandits and raiders and worse. But this felt different. The weight of what they carried, the knowledge of what was waking. Captain Torvin approached, his weathered face grave. "Sire, the scouts report increased activity in Silverthorn. Merchants are taking the long route around. They speak of sounds in the deep forest, howling that isn't quite wolf, shadows that move wrong." "We'll be vigilant," Edrick assured him. "Hold the castle in my absence. If Lord Blackwood or any of the other nobles arrive, tell them I'm investigating the northern border. Nothing more." "Understood, sire." Torvin clasped his forearm in salute. "Ride swift and return safe." Shamaz appeared at the stable entrance, leaning on his walking staff. He'd changed into his traveling robes, dark blue embroidered with silver symbols of healing and protection. In his hands he carried 3 small amulets on leather cords. "Not magical," he said, handing them out, "but blessed by the old rites. They may offer some protection against corruption, or at least warn you if you're getting too close to infected areas. If they grow hot, retreat." Rose hung hers around her neck immediately. Alluria studied hers for a moment before tucking it inside her armor. Edrick placed his own beneath his shirt, feeling the cool metal against his skin. "Thank you, old friend," Edrick said. "Come back alive," Shamaz replied simply. "All 3 of you. I'm too old to train new companions." "We're not that easy to kill," Rose said with a fierce grin. "Prove it." Shamaz stepped back. "The morning grows late. If you want to make the forest border by nightfall, you should leave now." Edrick swung into Thunder's saddle, the warhorse snorting and pawing the ground. Rose and Alluria mounted their own horses with practiced ease. Around them, castle guards and servants had gathered to watch their departure. Word had spread that the king was riding out, though few knew the true reason. Edrick raised his hand in acknowledgement to his people, then turned thunder toward the main gate. The massive iron portcullis was already rising, chains clanking as it lifted. Beyond lay the winding road that led through the town and out into the kingdom proper. As they rode through the streets of the capital, people stopped to watch. Some cheered, others simply stared. Children pointed at the king riding past, so different from the distant figure they occasionally glimpsed on the castle ramparts. This was Edrick, as he preferred to be seen, not in ceremonial robes but in battle-worn armor, not surrounded by guards, but riding with trusted companions. They passed through the outer gates and onto the north road. Behind them, Castle Stormmore rose against the morning sky, its banners snapping in the wind. Ahead, the road stretched through farmland and villages before disappearing into the dark line of Silverthorn Forest on the horizon. The amulet in Edrick's saddlebag pulsed once, twice, its rhythm matching his heartbeat. He could feel its weight even through leather and wood, could almost hear its whispers calling to something far away, something that was waiting, something that was waking. 3 days to Laketop, Rose said, bringing her horse alongside Thunder. If we push hard and the weather holds. The weather will hold, Alluria said from Edrick's other side. It's what's in the forest I'm worried about. We've faced worse, Edrick said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. Name one thing worse than an ancient evil that's been sealed away for 3,000 years, Rose challenged. The time we fought that corrupted bear in the Blackwood, Edrick offered. That was terrifying, Rose admitted, but it was still just a bear. This is... She gestured vaguely at the forest ahead. This is something that scared our ancestors so badly, they had to seal it away instead of destroying it. Maybe they couldn't destroy it, Alluria said quietly. Maybe that's why it's sealed, because death wasn't an option. The three riders fell silent, that grim thought settling over them like a shroud. The road continued north, and they followed it, three small figures against the vast landscape of Stormmore. Above them, clouds gathered on the northern horizon, dark and heavy, moving against the wind. In his saddlebag, the amulet pulsed faster. The journey had begun.